Color guard, attention. Color guard, march forward. Color guard, halt. Girls, please.
And the Girl Scouts are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Scout salute. Color guard, post the colors. Here. Color guard, honor the colors.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Bob Westfall. I'm the current president of the Avon Preservation and Historical Society, and we are pleased to present this program this morning in conjunction with the, I'm going to say this wrong, Ska-Hase-Ga-O chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Welcome to our presentation honoring Dr. Timothy Hosmer. Dr. Hosmer was a Revolutionary War surgeon. He was a judge, a doctor, and one of the first non-Native American settlers of this area. He purchased the land which is now called Avon, and he befriended the Native Americans in the area, and they called him the disease healer. So. And at this time, I'd like to welcome. We have some honored guests here today. I'd like to mention Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns, who's here. Town Supervisor David Lefebvre, Town Mayor Thomas Freeman, the Avon Scouts, members of the D.A.R. and the S.A.R., and the Rochester's Scottish pipes and drums, excuse me. And at this time, I would like to introduce Stephanie Dempsey. Stephanie is a board member of the Avon Historical Society as well as a member of the D.A.R. And she put together this program along with the other members of the D.A.R. and has done a wonderful job. And I will turn it over to Stephanie. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today. Thank goodness Mother Nature cooperated with us. Thank you for the sunshine. So we are here today to honor Dr. Hosmer, as Bob had mentioned. Again, my name is Stephanie Dempsey, and I am the regent for the Ska-Hase-Ga-O D.A.R. chapter. Our chapter was named after the Native American tribe that had settled in Lima, New York. The D.A.R., or the Daughters of the American Revolution, is one of the largest lineage-based membership organization for women in the world. And like the S.A.R. members, our members can trace their ancestors back to those who fought in the Revolutionary War. Now, I don't think today we have anyone with us who is a descendant of our D.A.R. patriot, Timothy Hosmer, but I do have a little note to share with you of a member that we did, a D.A.R. member that we did reach out to. Timothy Hosmer was her fourth great-grandfather. So I'm going to read it to you now. My name is Claudia Susan Eddy Olson. My fourth great-grandfather was Timothy Hosmer, who was one of my DAR patriots. I was excited to hear that there would be a ceremony to honor him this year. I'm a member of the Prudence Hall chapter in Arkansas State DAR. I would like to visit Avon someday. It's interesting that I was raised just down the lake from you. My family home was in Michigan on the shore of Lake Erie. I wish I could be with your chapter as you honor my fourth great-grandfather. I'm very proud of my heritage, and I'm pleased that you will be honoring him. I'm also proud to be sisters with the members of the Ska-Hase-Ga-O D.A.R. chapter. Sincerely, Susan Olson. So I'd like to take a couple minutes to tell you about Timothy Hosmer and why we are honoring him today. Timothy Hosmer was born on September 1st, 1745, in West Hartford, Connecticut, to Stephen Hosmer and Deliverance Graves. Now, Timothy Hosmer didn't have any real formal education. I mean, he went to school, but he didn't go on to college. But he did have an interest in medicine. So he started studying under Dr. Dickerson in Middletown, Connecticut. He then later married Elizabeth Smith, who is next to him. They were married in 1771, and they had 9 children. And he started practicing medicine in Farmington, Connecticut. Now, Dr. Hosmer was nearing about 30 years old when the difficulty with the Britons began. Timothy Hosmer and John Treadwell, who later became the governor of Connecticut, and a few others openly proclaimed their opposition against the British. This was a very trying time for them because this ran counter to what their neighbors believed. So life was kind of difficult for a little while. So when the Revolutionary War began, Dr. Hosmer immediately entered the service as a surgeon in the 6th Continental Regiment, serving under Colonel Return Meigs. Now, around 1775, the smallpox disease started running ravage through the Northern Continental Army as well as General George Washington's army. At the time, General George Washington thought that maybe quarantining the men would be the most effective way to help spread the disease. But the quarantining wasn't strongly enforced, so that means that those efforts didn't prove to be effective at all. Unfortunately, the smallpox disease started reducing the number of available troops to fight, as well as discouraging new recruits to join the Continental Army. So in 1777, General George Washington became convinced that the only way to prevent disease and save his army was to inoculate the troops. Now, Dr. Hosmer had already been a large advocate of the inoculation methods that were being used at that time, and his efforts and reputation caught notice of those of authority. And it wasn't long until he was promoted to surgeon on General George Washington's staff, and he joined them before the Battle of Long Island. It has been told that Dr. Hosmer has been credited for being one of the first to apply newly discovered principles of vaccination in America. And in 1779, then Dr. Hosmer became in charge at the West Division Hospital, which was on the slope of Avon Mountain in West Hartford, Connecticut. On October 2nd, 1780, John Andre, a major in the British Army, was hung for being a spy, and also assisting Benedict Arnold for trying to surrender West Point. It was Dr. Hosmer's job to lay his fingers on the pulse of John Andre to confirm that he had died. Through family history stories, it was told that Timothy Hosmer said that this is one of the saddest duties he had ever performed. Now, even though Dr. Hosmer spent 2.5 years serving in the Revolutionary War, he actually retired penniless. And there is records that Dr. Hosmer submitted claims to be awarded for what he was owed, but I don't believe he was ever awarded those funds. Dr. Hosmer later on became a member of the Society of Cincinnati, which is the nation's oldest patriotic organization, founded in 1783 by officers of the Continental Army and their French counterparts who served together in the American Revolution. Dr. Hosmer's diploma of membership was signed by none other than General George Washington, who was the first President General of the Society. Now, after the war, Timothy Hosmer started getting a little overwhelmed with his professional practice. And with the lure of a new adventure, Dr. Hosmer started looking west. Hearing of land purchases in New York, Dr. Hosmer and Major Isaiah Thompson made their first visits to this area in 1789 on behalf of themselves and 3 other investors from Farmington, Connecticut. Pleased with what they saw, they purchased this area and named it Hartford Township. A year later, Timothy Hosmer returned with his 2 elder sons, and they cleared some land and built a log cabin, which was around where the Avon Circle is now. And then he returned to Connecticut, packed up his family, and they settled here permanently. Now, out of necessity, Dr. Hosmer then opened a new medical practice and became the first doctor in this area. The Seneca Indians learned to appreciate his professional skills and gave him an Indian name which meant healer of disease. On March 7th, 1792, Dr. Hosmer became the first master of the first Masonic Lodge, which was chartered here in Ontario County. Now, at the time, this was Ontario County. We had not been called Livingston County yet. Dr. Hosmer was also a man of great faith. In 1792, when the population in this area was only 10 families, Dr. Hosmer read the first lay service of the Episcopal Church, which was in a log schoolhouse not far from the present-day building, which this congregation is now called Zion Church, making this congregation the oldest Episcopal church in Western New York. And if you drive around the circle and look at the sign that says Zion Church, it will say established in 1792. Now, Dr. Hosmer was also known for many of having impeccable dress, wearing fine deerskin breeches, complete with silver knee buckles, with his hair powdered and ribbon tied. Considering to be part of an old school, a world of culture and refinement. Dr. Hosmer also developed a reputation by his neighbors as being a man of fine education, having a nicely balanced sense of honor, being firm but wise and insightful, speaking with straightforwardness and honesty, which became very popular. Now, because of these qualities, and having no law degree at all, he was then elected on October 5th, 1793, as the presiding judge of the Court of Common Pleas of Canandaigua, and officiated at the very first jury trial that ever occurred in court record in Ontario County. His very first court case was centered around none other than someone stealing a cowbell. So in 1796, then Dr. Hosmer built the first sawmill in Littleville, New York. For those who are not familiar with this area, Littleville is just down the road. In 1797, the Township of Hartford was organized, and Dr. Hosmer and Gad Wadsworth were elected commissioners of highways. In 1805, Dr. Hosmer, I should say Judge Hosmer, retired at the age of 60. In 1808, the Township of Hartford was changed to Avon, as not to be confused with another Hartford, New York. At the age of 70, in November 1815, Dr. Hosmer passed away. Now, you won't find Timothy Hosmer's name in any history books, but he certainly made a mark in history. And if you Google Andre the Spy, you won't see Timothy Hosmer's name, or smallpox in the Revolutionary War, you won't find his name. But he was there making history. And I've always wondered, what would history have been like if Dr. Hosmer wasn't such an advocate of the smallpox inoculation during the Revolutionary War? Or if he wasn't so adventurous to bring his family on a new adventure here in the wilderness of Western New York? So I want to say thank you to Timothy Hosmer and all that he did in his 70 years of life. But actually, he's not the only one I'd like to thank today. We actually have 5 other Revolutionary War soldiers here buried in the cemetery. And you will see how they are marked. Right here is a black stand that I have of Timothy Hosmer. The other Revolutionary War soldiers are also marked by the stands here. We have a father and a son right across the driveway here to my left, and I'm sorry that I'm pointing at everybody. We have Gad Wadsworth, who you just heard about, who was Commissioner of Highways with Timothy Hosmer. We have down that way, we have Graves Hosmer, which was a brother to Timothy Hosmer, and Samuel Blakesley. They are all Revolutionary War soldiers. And if you go and honor them today, I did write a little bio about what they did in the Revolutionary War and what their service was here in Avon. I also want to note that down near Blakesley and Graves Hosmer, there is a headstone of Grace Hosmer that I put flowers on today. According to her obituary, she was the last surviving member of the Hosmer family, who were the pioneer settlers here in Avon. What I find interesting is that she is in direct line of Timothy Hosmer. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it sure makes a great story. So I want to thank you today for coming to honor Timothy Hosmer, doctor, pioneer, Indian friend, judge, and Revolutionary War patriot. So at this time, I would like to invite Assemblywoman Marjorie Burns to step forward.
Old cemeteries have little dips in them. It's my pleasure to be here today to honor Dr. Hosmer, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and all the other people who are here today and who fought in the war so that we could be here all these years later in order to honor them and to still love and preserve this country that they founded. I bring to you today a citation from the New York State Assembly. It's not too long, so it reads as follows. Whereas Dr. Timothy Hosmer was born in West Hartford, Connecticut, whereas immediately when the Revolutionary War began, the doctor entered into service as a surgeon with the 6th Continental Regiment. Whereas, after advocating for smallpox vaccinations and using it with great success, Dr. Hosmer's reputation earned him a position on General George Washington's staff. Whereas in 1789, the doctor, along with 4 others from Connecticut, traveled to and purchased what is now the town of Avon, naming the area originally Hartford, as you know, after his homeland, now the Avon that we know and love today. Whereas in 1793, when Ontario County was organized, Dr. Hosmer was appointed judge, as we've already heard about, which is an incredible honor. As a former judge, I can tell you that, especially when he was not an attorney. It's just extraordinary the things he was able to do and accomplish. Whereas in 1814, Dr. Hosmer's son, Sylvester, became a proprietor of his late father-in-law's inn that was located along the Genesee River, crossing in Avon, which is now located at the Genesee Country Museum. Whereas this ceremony marks the beginning of the local Daughter of the American Revolution celebrations, leading up to the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed by the New York State Assembly, myself, in conjunction with Supervisor Lefevre, Mayor Freeman, and all the citizens of the 133rd Assembly District, that we are here to remember and celebrate Dr. Timothy Hosmer as a physician, judge, early pioneer of Avon, and most importantly, a Revolutionary War patriot. I would like to present this citation to Stephanie Dempsey on behalf of the New York State Assembly to the Daughters of the American Revolution. Thank you.
Next, I would like the assistance of Maggie Dempsey, who is a member of the Ska-Hase-Ga-O D.A.R chapter, and Sean Dempsey, who is a member of the S.A.R, to help present a marker to Timothy Hosmer today. And we will have the Rochester Scottish Pipes and Drums Band playing Amazing Grace.
Look around, you'll see many uniforms from the Revolutionary period, representing different regiments of the Continental Line and the militia. Flags you see over here also represent the various Continental Lines and regiments throughout our founding period of time, through all the colonies. In a few minutes, we're going to do a rifle salute. You heard the term, keep your powder dry in a flash in a pan. The weapons that we are holding are replicas, working replicas of weapons that Dr. Hosmer would have been very familiar with. Black powder is dropped in the muzzle. Black powder is put in the pan, you cock. The flint goes forward, hits the frizzen, creates a spark, goes down in the pan, into the barrel, and hopefully the muskets fire. They don't always. History tells us they fired about 80% of the time. So that would be quite a shock to someone who was getting ready to protect his life and the gun knocked him off. So we can't guarantee that these are going to work, but we're going to give it a try. Detail, right shoulder arms. Wheel right. Make ready. Aim. Fire. Present arms. Tap.
Thank you. Before we end the program, I actually have a surprise today. It is not mentioned in the program, something that was presented to me last night. So if I could ask, I'm going to have you take over from here. So this is Rob. He is part of the Avon Preservation Historical Society, and he has a surprise for us today.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Robert Dubois. Anyone in Avon who knows John Dubois knows the love of history that the family has. Today, I discovered something that I feel is fitting to present to Avon from the Dubois family. Can I have Mayor Freeman, Bob Westfall, Maureen Kingston, up to the front, please?
Maureen?
Yeah.
But you had to be in the back. Sorry.
Now, love of history that John Dubois had. Sadly, medically, he can't be here. When I was moving my folks out of their apartment a few years ago, I discovered a copy of a document. This document was very special, and I didn't know where the original had come from or where it was. With all the Civil War research, I thought an envelope, this one right here, nice cardboard, was another Civil War image or document, until I opened it. Now, we all know Dr. Timothy Hosmer came to Avon in 1789 after purchasing a load of land. When he got here, the only thing I can imagine, when he looked across his valley, he says, "I'm home." But apparently, either he needed money or he had a deal that he couldn't pass up. So in 1793, Dr. Timothy Hosmer sold almost 4,200 acres of land that he owned to Gad Wadsworth and his brother Jeremiah. Today, I'm going to present to you the original land document with Timothy Hosmer and Elizabeth Hosmer's wax seals and signatures, along with Gad and Jeremiah's signatures from 1793, the sale of the land to the Wadsworths from the Hosmers. This will sit in the Historical Society forever. Bob? Thank you so much. This belongs in Avon and it will stay here. Well, the framing is going to have to take place as it's two-sided.
Yes.
On the back, this document was done in December of 1793. It was officially put into records in Hartford, Connecticut in October of 1794. So the framing will have to be two-sided so everybody can enjoy this true piece of history that belongs to Avon.
Thank you. As they get settled, I would like to ask Reverend Karen Farmer to come up and say a benediction, please. And that will be the conclusion of our ceremony. The bagpipes will play. And we also have an informational table over here on the left. If anyone is interested of further information on the S.A.R., D.A.R., or the Avon Preservation and Historical Society, there's a table set up right over here with some information. Thank you for coming today.
May the Lord bless us as we leave this place. May we be granted memories of those who've gone before. May we seek to heal and seek out justice, as Dr. Hosmer did. And may we always make room and have courage for adventure. Amen.
Mark them on roll. All right.